Arranged marriages were centuries ago a common affair in Ireland. Marrying for love was of little interest to greedy fathers. They would sooner see their daughters wed to the highest bidder than marry someone they truly love. That was certainly the case for one Irish lass. Her tale is as tragic as it is terrifying. Many moons ago, in an area now known as Waterford City, lived a young lady sweet and kind. Her mind said to be as beautiful as her face. Men wanted to marry her, women wanted to be her. She cared not for position or title, money or material things, and had fallen madly in love with a farmhand. They made plans to marry and have children of their own and truly live happily ever after. And on hearing this, her father did what any loving father would do, and he promised her to another in exchange for money and land. She was heartbroken. She begged her father to reconsider, but it fell on deaf ears. He was greedy and cold-hearted. She was promised to a clan chieftain, a man of enormous wealth, but said to be equally as cruel and much older than her father. Proof her father cared less to find her a youthful match that she could potentially grow to love, and more for how much his daughter would fetch for. The marriage was arranged, the date was set, the dress was bought, but nothing of this day was happy. True, the guests had a wonderful time. No expense was spared, but not as a show of the chieftain's happiness to be marrying the young bride, purely to show off his wealth. Stories of the chieftain's cruelty towards his new bride were well known. He abused her terribly. He would harm her purely for amusement. It said he liked to see the red run down her pale white skin. He kept her locked in a tower, miserable and alone, all while her father sat counting his wealth. She hoped her lost love would come and rescue her and live out the life they had dreamt, but he was unable. So in a pit of despair, she stopped eating, didn't sleep, and completely wasted away. But her mind was gone long before her body. She was barely cold when her husband took another wife, so it was left to the villagers to bury the poor girl. They were to take her body and bury it under what people call Strongbow's tree. Her forever resting place was visited every day, not by her husband or by her family, but by the farmhand who would tell her every day of his undying love and willing her back to him. The practice at the time was to cover the grave in a tall stack of stones so the recently deceased could not rise. But for some reason on the night of her burial, the villagers didn't follow the practice, perhaps out of pity for not helping the poor girl in life. They just wanted to let her lie in the earth peacefully in death. What they couldn't have known is that she would rise on the anniversary of her death. But what emerged was not the sweet girl they laid to rest. Instead, a spirit just as beautiful as before, but only on the outside. Now, a pretty shell seeking revenge on those who had taken her love, her happiness, and her life. So, of course, her first visit was to her childhood home to visit dear old Daddy. Her father lay sound asleep in his bed. She leaned over, pressed her lips against his, and sucked every last breath from his body, and left. In doing so, she grew further from the sweet and kind person she once was. But she was blind to this and continued on her hunt because she was on a mission, as next on her list was her husband. As she made her way back to her old prison, she came upon her husband, staggering home drunk from a night in the tavern. Anger coursed through her at the sight of him. She pressed her lips to his and sucked every last breath, and before he knew what hit him, he was out. But this time was different. This time, not only did she take the air from his lungs, but the blood from his veins. All the blood she had lost due to his cruelty. It's only fair, right? But what she didn't anticipate was that she would acquire a taste for the crimson elixir. And before she knew it, she needed more. So every year on the anniversary of her death, she rises, and she continues to prey on young men, luring them with her beauty and the promise of a kiss, failing to mention it's the kiss of death, of course. But there's no need for panic. Just wait until she returns to her forever resting place, and do as the villagers should have done many, many years ago. Take a tall stack of stones, place them on her grave at Strongbow's tree so she can no longer rise, and finally rest in peace. That is, if you can find Strongbow's tree.